Hello, lovely friends. I hope that you all are doing well. Excited to bring this little reading to you guys for this month. We do have some new patrons, so welcome to my new friends. I'm glad you're here. It definitely assists in the growth of everything that I am working on to give back to all of you. So definitely very appreciative and grateful for all of those little patrons that are in the group. Or all of you patrons that are in the group, I should say. Anywho, so we are still flowing through just a bit of that eclipse energy. Definitely, it wasn't as strong as the next one will be necessarily, but it was, I would say it's significant in some ways. So if you guys want, let me know what you did during the eclipse, if you just chilled out, if you decided to do any sort of ritual or not, but I personally, after I've been getting more and more into astrology and really learning about planetary magic, I've been seeing how philosophy and all these different things are deeply intertwined and ingrained into the different things that we do and into astrology. And so one big thing that I personally learned was that eclipses are notoriously known in the astrological community, especially classical or ancient astrology. It's known that eclipses are usually not a great day, I guess, usually to do any sort of magical work or things of that nature. Eclipses were often omens for something big coming to pass that wasn't necessarily fun or cute to flow through. So often in ancient astrology or in ancient times, people used to see eclipses as possibly a death of a king or a big transition in that way. So work with it as you will, but definitely no fear around it or anything. It's more so just recognizing how you can work with the planetary clock, I guess you could say, to best benefit the work that you're working on. Just similar, or as similar as working with the different moon phases. A full moon is definitely better for certain things than other, moon cycles or phases, like a new moon. They kind of have a different approach, a different sort of energy going, so something to just be aware of and just allow yourself to be open to. I love learning new things and new practices and seeing what people's beliefs are in different areas, and it's always an interesting experience. So, let's see. I've already got some cards here. I have two here already that I'm going to kind of go into about the full moon, and then we'll just kind of dive into the energy for December. So, full moon eclipse. So with this energy for the full moon and eclipse, we are looking at kind of like, I feel like there's this duality, or maybe this, it kind of feels like a push and pull or a tug of war between two versions of someone's self. One version might be very laid back, very chill, just chilling at home, comfy clothes. You can see it in the images of the cards here, which I will show you guys. But one girl is completely just chilled out, wearing a hoodie and pants, and then the other person is wearing a more dressy outfit. Looks like they might be on like a vacation or somewhere where they're able to look nice daily or more frequently than this other person. And it's interesting because it almost reminds me of possibly someone thinking to themselves, I feel like the present moment might be the Four of Cups, and the Two of Wands might be kind of like this looking back at what once was. And I feel like the Four of Cups is kind of this person who is just sitting and looking at these cups and kind of mourning the loss of this time and energy and space that they once had to be able to, if we're looking at it in terms of what's going on right now, could definitely be seen as someone who is feeling a bit upset or a bit bored or a bit, maybe discouraged in ways because they're recognizing that things are happening in the world in which they can't necessarily do the traveling or go to the places that they normally would like to go to or visit, or whatever the case is. And maybe kind of just this energy of mourning the past, wishing that you could be in Greece or in Rome, looking at these different places, going on your excursions, eating your fancy food, dressing up in your nice clothes, whatever it might be. Even if it's just, at home, being able to drive to the next town over, wearing a nice outfit, going out with a few people that you care about, and it's like there's definitely this distinct difference. And I think that the message that is coming through the most, I guess the strongest here, is that you can spend all this time looking at these cups and folding your arms and feeling like it's the end of the world in some cases, and feeling frustrated. And it's like you have to recognize, I feel like there's this reminder of, you feel restrained, and there are definitely some restraints, but it's gotten to the point where you've almost allowed yourself to build your own walls. It's like you're not even being enclosed by the forces that initially inspired this kind of, I don't know, what would it be? A secluded sort of energy, or that inspired it or encouraged it. It's like now gotten to the point where it's now you who has kind of fed into the energy and allowed it to kind of spiral into something else. So it's kind of like, at this point, are you going to take back the reins and take your power back, or are you going to continue to act like you are helpless to a situation that you do have some power or energy in? It's like, I don't know, it reminds me of someone going out and gambling for whatever reason. I don't do this, so I don't know if I'm speaking on terms with what actually happens. But it reminds me of a bunch of people putting money into a pot, and everyone has equal parts and equal shares of this thing that they've put money into. But it's like the energy that this card is giving me is that one of those people is sitting there and feeling like, well, I feel like I have no decisions over what's happening. I feel like I have no hands on what's going on. I feel like I don't even have a say here. I feel like I can't even make a decision with what's taking place. And it's like you're doing all this internal complaining to yourself, and that's cool, I guess. But I think it's important to recognize, like, okay, you're doing all this complaining to yourself, but have you once maybe, stepped up to the rest of the group members and said, like, hey, I also have equal share in this. I feel like my opinion is important and also valid, because my money is also, again, a share of this. So I wanted to come forward and speak my truth and just let everyone know how I was feeling, rather than feeling like you have no power over the situation, crossing your arms, just getting upset over once was, and, yada, yada, yada. It's interesting because it reminds me of Saturn Energy. Saturn is a planet that rules Aquarius and Capricorn. Each sign is ruled by a specific planet. Gemini by Mercury, Libra and Virgo by Libra and Virgo by Venus, etc. Scorpio and Aries are ruled by Mars, and so on. You can kind of take a look. Sagittarius by Jupiter, Cancer by the moon, Leo by the sun. I feel like I have to go down the whole list, but you can definitely look it up and see which one you might be ruled by. But Saturn specifically is associated with Capricorn and Aquarius. It has more of a affinity for Aquarius, but it is still related to Capricorn energy. But the difference between Capricorn and Aquarius is that Capricorn is very much like, we need to get back to our roots. We need to get back to tradition. We need to get back to the good old days, how we were doing things back in the day, the way it worked. If it's not broke, don't fix it. And Aquarius is very much like, we've had it wrong for so many years in the past. We still are doing shit wrong, so we might as well try something different. Like, it's time. We've done the same things. We see that this is a continuous cycle. So why can we not just introduce something different? So you see like this push and pull. And it's kind of like, that's the energy that I'm getting as well. There's this energy of Capricorn in this case almost reminds me of the Four of Cups, kind of this energy of seeing like, I wish things were the way that they used to be. I'm upset. I feel like I have no say in what's going on. I feel like I have no parts in it. I feel like, even if I were to make a post or whatever, it's very minimal movement toward a end goal, whatever that might be. So, I'm just going to sit here and cross my arms and just be upset about it. Meanwhile, Aquarius is very much like, we have the power to create what is happening to us. We have the power to create and recreate what is taking place around us, within us, etc. And yes, maybe making that one post and maybe doing that one meditation and that one thing that feels super minimal on a super small scale that makes you feel like a ant in the complete whole of what's happening. That's just as important as you going out in front of the masses of the whole globe and speaking on something that you are passionate about, that you feel could help elevate everyone. There is equal importance in that. Recognizing that you are part of that collective, and instead of like singling yourself out and making yourself feel excluded and I feel like I have no parts, I feel like I have no say, I feel like I put my money into this and now I'm just at the whims of everyone else that's participated. And Aquarius is kind of here to step in and say like, no, that's not the case. Like, you have every capability of saying what's on your mind, of speaking your truth, of speaking with people who are like-minded and who are not, and just by doing all those things that feel super minimal, you are shifting the energy around you, and it's a much larger impact than you might see it as. So it's kind of this similar reminder in the Four of Cups, because in this card, again, she's sitting here kind of wallowing, she's over it, arms crossed, they don't want anyone to come into their bubble right now. They've got a wall up, not feeling it. But the cup that is kind of floating in within the cloud is kind of coming as a reminder of like, hey, you've got power, you've got connections to other realms. There are things that we can do that we can't explain. And you would rather just sit here and act like you don't have any parts in what's going on. The only one that's told you that is yourself. So maybe we can rewrite that story and recreate something else. So with this eclipse, really thinking about how you can release that version of yourself that's kind of like feeling like you're wallowing in some sense, or feeling like you have some sort of fear of missing out on something, or you feel like you're missing out on like during this time you feel like it's being wasted because you feel like you can't do these things that you were once able to do, or maybe not as easily able to do things that were more readily accessible to you in some sense. So it's allowing yourself to kind of release that reality and to not get too attached to the past or to the future, and allowing yourself to kind of remain present. That's kind of where I was going with the whole Saturn idea with Aquarius and Capricorn. It's this idea of one is kind of living in the past, which would be Capricorn. One is kind of always looking forward towards the future, which is Aquarius. And there's some sort of detriment with the thinking of the Aquarius because the future isn't always promised, or we can't always pinpoint exactly what direction something is going to go in. So it's like there's this need to have this balance of being in the present, of being able to address and heal what happened in the past, but also allowing yourself to be able to think and move forward toward the future, but not getting too stuck in one realm or the other. And I feel like that's going to be important as we go through these kind of eclipses that are coming up, or this eclipse that just happened and the one that's upcoming or up and coming, as well as some other energies that are happening and taking place, just because we are really shifting kind of in some sense into a new era, into a new epoch, into a new beginning completely, where a lot of things is going to change, or a lot of things are going to change. A lot of information is going to shift and change. A lot of information is going to be released, and possibly even some monitoring of information, some censorship of information, whether it is false or beneficial to everyone's highest good. You know, things just being hidden, things being censored, things being a little bit more controlled in some senses than usual, possibly. And whatever the case might be, that might even just be like different websites. Like I've been noticing different websites having different sort of security protocols, and even like when you want to go through the database and try to find a certain sort of post or look through a certain sort of tag stream, everything is very much filtered. And so, I don't know, just some things that I've even been noticing over the past few years, but something that with the energies that are up and coming, those are kind of like key words as to things that we might notice, but maybe not necessarily exactly. So allowing yourself to kind of have a foot in both realms, in both worlds, and not get too stuck into the past and things should have been like this and things were working this way, or too forward moving to where you are kind of missing yourself in this moment and not really appreciating what's happening right now and taking place right now within this moment, because you're always constantly looking forward. So it's like maybe in the future you might even look back at this present moment in time and feel some sort of nostalgia and some sort of like, you know, I really wish I was present, or I really wish I allowed myself to be here for what was happening, because, you know, whatever came to pass afterwards. So allowing yourself to be mindful of that, recognizing that you can shift your perspective and really find your inner peace, your inner power, and your confidence through doing so. So, Nine of Swords, the Moon, and the Strength card are our cards moving into the next month, or into this month of December. And so I feel like we are maybe coming out of this energy of the Nine of Swords where it's just like maybe possibly during Mercury retrograde you were flowing through a lot of things that were quite emotional for you to deal with, or for you to recognize or realize. Possibly difficult conversations having to happen, conversations that have happened in the past coming back because you have to rehash whatever that issue is out, you know, and possibly even a test from the universe in some sense, where you are being given that circumstance or that situation or that scenario once again to be able to see if you are able to finally deal with it in a different way that allows you to do things for your highest good rather than acting out of your ego. But that's the vibes. Those are the vibes. It's very much like thoughts keeping you up at night, a lot of like very mercurial energy, kind of Gemini, like overthinking yourself crazy, or overthinking to the point where you start to believe the stories that you create yourself or within yourself. You know, it's like when you're a kid and, you know, you did something wrong, like you ate the last cookie and you don't want to get in trouble. So you come up with your little story like, oh, maybe the dog ate it or whatever. And you rehearse it with yourself just so that you're ready and prepared when you go up to your parent and they ask. And so much so that you start to believe that story. And, you know, it's detrimental to you because you're being dishonest with yourself. So with the moon being shown here, there were possibly maybe some things that were coming out or coming to light that needed to be addressed during the previous month that, you know, again, were kind of reoccurring in your life or coming up or being brought up so that you could deal with them differently, things that were maybe happening within yourself. I love this depiction of the moon card because it's like, you know, you feel like it's a very internal sort of energy. So it's almost like kind of being alone or going on a solo journey and really feeling like you can let loose and be wild. But this card is also a reminder that, you know, don't allow yourself to roam too free, because you might end up, you know, kind of catching yourself into a trap where you're walking into this cave. Simultaneously, you have this shadow creature behind you, and it's like they could easily drag you down with them if you're not paying attention and you're just too, you know, vibing with life. You know, it's kind of like the story of a empath and a narcissist, where the empath is just like very free, go with the flow, loving, wanting to see the good in everyone, and it's just very much opportune for the narcissist because they also at the same time don't have a very strong sense of self-esteem, so they're easily swayed, and so again they just are kind of going with the wind, going with the flow, and so then the narcissist is able to step in and, you know, do whatever influential work that they do in their own benefit. So realizing how you may need to allow yourself to let loose and be free, but also at the same time have some self-awareness and also take responsibility for the feelings that are being brought up during this time, or that have been brought up during the last month. But it also kind of gives me this vibe of kind of escaping the shadows. If we look at the Nine of Swords, it's this person in a dark room and they're just crying. And then if we were to think of the next card as maybe them coming out of their room, coming outside, they're with a friend, they're celebrating, they're feeling light, they're feeling happier. And the shadow is behind them, so they're no longer feeling the grasp and the pull of maybe the dark depths of their mind and their overthinking and their overthoughts, if you will, or the energies and shadows that lurk within the room, where they've kind of invited those energies into their space just by the energy that they were feeling. You know, like attracts like. So it kind of registers to me as like this month coming out of that energy to where you feel the strength, as we see in the strength card. It's almost like this progression. It kind of feels like the same person. This person in a dark room, then they're with their friend, they're feeling vibrant, they're feeling light, the shadows behind them, they're walking toward the cave. Reminds me of going on a shamanic journey, and going on a shamanic journey into the underworld specifically. You go through a cave and kind of descend into the earth, and in the underworld you do a lot of internal work as far as like soul retrieval and bringing back your soul parts. When we go through different traumatic experiences throughout our lives, even during our birth, we can lose soul pieces. They kind of like balance out the impact so that we don't feel it as much. And so when this happens, though, it's like we aren't completely ourselves or aren't in our full potential, and realizing that these soul pieces are lost and realizing that we can bring them back in and reincorporate them and relearn how to incorporate these pieces of ourselves. It's just kind of like this continuous journey that we're on. It's a very shamanic based sort of practice, I guess you could say, shamanic journeying to retrieve soul pieces and parts. But once they rejoin with you, again, you should feel a lot more, I guess, put together in some senses. To me, it kind of feels like puzzle pieces coming back together, where you start to find your voice again, and you start to feel more comfortable in your skin, and you start to feel more certain about certain things that you're doing in your life. And about your purpose. So it's like coming out of this dark night of the soul, finally getting past your shadow, and maybe even coexisting with it in some sense, but not allowing it to overtake you. Being able to go on a shamanic journey and retrieve those soul pieces and parts of yourself so that you're able to come back like the strength card, feeling complete, infinite, and strong, confident. which this is very nice energy to kind of start the month with, or even start the 2020 calendar year with. Feeling strong, feeling confident, whereas last year and maybe the year prior we might have felt a little bit more uncertain, a little bit more curious, but also confused at the same time. But this time it's like feeling empowered, feeling like we know who we are, who our spirit team is, feeling like we know where to come to, where we need to place ourselves when we need to come back to ourselves or to rejoin with parts of ourselves. It's kind of really learning or relearning the pieces and parts and tools that we once had, to relearn and remember who we were, but also remember who we are in some sense, if that makes sense. Interestingly enough, though, too, the moon card, if you've ever seen, The Haunting of Bly Manor, this card kind of reminds me of that. If you haven't seen it and you are okay with watching some spooky things, it's not gory spooky, and it's not like really jump scares. It's more kind of like psychological and more kind of follows a story or a storyline, I would say, but I thought it was very good. But it kind of reminds me of the story of The Lady in the Lake, which I feel like I can't really go too much in detail because you kind of learn the story by the end of the season or end of the episodes. But if you like and are into things like that and haven't seen it already, I definitely encourage you to go look at it. And I feel it definitely kind of it definitely kind of relates to the message that's happening here. So yeah, again, shifting out of this dark night of the soul, really learning how to retrain our thoughts, getting a better handle on who we are, what our mechanisms are, and how we work as a human being. So much so that we are gaining this confidence in ourselves, that we're able to dive into the depths of ourselves and not really get lost and caught up anymore in our shadow, but more so allowing ourselves to coexist, to use our shadow as an element of learning rather than as something that has power over us, while allowing ourselves to be wild and free, but still having a sense of awareness of what's going on around us. Maybe this month, just in general, some things may come to light as well. Some information that maybe you didn't necessarily know of or were aware of, or I feel like it might not necessarily be directly related to you, but you knowing about it might be important. So some sort of just something that was kind of hidden for some time, or just like an idea or some sort of communication thing. For some reason, I'm feeling like it's communication, something coming to light, maybe a conversation finally happening. But whatever it is, whatever the circumstances are, it was all meant to, and it was all meant to empower you and help you to find strength within yourself, and allow you to empower yourself in all areas of your life. So, that is what I'm seeing and feeling in the cards as far as the full moon and eclipse energy and our energy moving into December. I'll be coming out with a mandala reading as well. I've just had so many orders from the past weekend, which I'm so grateful about and thankful for. It definitely, it is my livelihood, so it keeps everything flowing and growing. Yes, along with some artistic projects, but you guys are always on my mind, so I cannot wait to get this mandala out for you and to kind of get some astrological information into your hands so you can flow with the transits and see what the energy is and how to work with it and what to expect possibly. It's big stuff. It's big stuff for sure. The last time we've experienced some of these things was in 1981, so for those of you who were alive during that time, that is not me, but you might remember some of the things that happened around and during that time. And even if you want to, maybe do a little Google search and see. But don't worry, I'll go into more depth about that within the coming days as we approach the Great Conjunction and other fun astrological things that are taking place. So enjoy your month of December. I will be sending some more information and things out to you guys here soon. The ancestors got my tongue tied, but have an amazing rest of your day.